are the founder of BYP Network.
Yep.
Black Young Professionals.
Yes.
Which is, absolutely wonderful. So tell me, why did you start BYP Network?
So it started back in 2016, off the back of like Black Lives Matter movement, but also my own experiences. So kind of realizing that the workplace wasn't very diverse, seeing a lot of my friends or peers not getting grad jobs, the constant negative news on TV about like our statistics, even what we see now, right? Like COVID, and just like, household inequalities, and just this kind of general view of like, the role model visibility wasn't really there. We couldn't really see ourselves outside of like entertainment industry, which is fine, but there's a lot of Black people that are in other roles, but we just never saw them. So I kind of started off the back of like, okay, well, we need to connect as a global community and solve our own problems and come together and share ideas, share knowledges, build businesses. So yeah, that's pretty much why I started it. And that was like nearly 4 years ago now.
Oh, well done. So tell me, do you do this full time or part time?
It's full time.
Full time. Okay, brilliant. All right. So I watched a video of an event you held in 2018. It was like a recruitment expo. And one of the quotes you said was, "We need to invite you to our spaces so that you can find us." I found that was quite powerful, actually. Tell me, what was the thinking behind that quote?
Well, a lot of companies kept saying that they can't find the talent doesn't exist, there's a pipeline problem. And that's something I just kept on hearing. And it was like, well, like the talent does exist. I mean, I'm around amazing Black people all the time. We see each other all the time, right? Black people, we have Black friends, Black family. And it was almost like, are they different worlds that we're living in? They can't find us, but we can find us, so we exist. So maybe if we open up to you, we're here, you can come into our space. So like, if you tend to go to a networking event for any company, you might be the only Black person there. You might see one other Black person and start talking to them, and then they're like, oh, you guys should spread out. You always kind of feel awkward, or you're the other. Whereas actually, if we have our own events, our own networking events, we're like, all right, well, you can come here to find us because this is where we are. So it's just like basically opening up our spaces to them.
And it's interesting because especially if you're in a recruitment space, it therefore means that you're trying to represent young people who are applying for a lot of these jobs, but sometimes those doors just aren't opening for whatever reason.
Yeah, exactly. It's not opening for many reasons, but it's also a lot of learning on both sides. So, for example, on our side, we don't know that, you have to do psychometric tests beforehand, or do a volunteering kind of internship beforehand, or you might not have access because no one around you has been in these kind of industries, or you don't have that person that can just kind of bring you in. So, we have to go through a process of realizing that, especially university students, there's people that start applying for internships in second year uni, but don't have anything on their CV, where actually you should have already been doing that from, sixth form and first year. So for me, it's like, we need to give information out. Like, if you have the information you need, then you'll be able to get to where you want to get in a few years' time. But if you don't even have that information, you're on a back foot regardless.
That's a very important point. So are you giving out sample psychometric tests for people to do?
So we don't do that. So we're more experienced hires, but what we do is we use our professionals to go back and mentor, and we work with other companies that do all those things. So the point of thinking about BYP is like, we bring us all together, and then we give us the opportunities to then give back, or to then grow as an individual. So there are companies out there that do psychometric tests, that do careers and skills and CVs and interview skills. So we use them. We'll use them to help the community, but we don't have to be the provider of everything.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, yeah, very good point. Okay. So tell us about your background, your childhood, and your journey to this point.
I mean, the journey, so we obviously did a crowdfund, so I'm not sure if you've seen that, and there's a video in there, so it might be worth playing that video somehow in this interview.
Okay.
But in that video, I just talk about statistics essentially. Like I grew up in East London, single parent household, that kind of same rhetoric that you hear. But I didn't necessarily know I grew up disadvantaged until I went into the wider world and realized that, oh, apparently, East London was disadvantaged, and the things we thought was normalized isn't normal. Like it's not normal to know gang members or whatever. It's just things that we see as normal isn't necessarily normal. And so for me, I was very academic, so like A-star at school, also athletic, so I represented Great Britain as a junior athlete.
Wow.
So I was very fortunate to be both sporty and academic, and that allowed me to get a lot of opportunities because they saw me as like rare or high achiever. And so I think I had time in America. I was out there for a year and a half to do my master's, and that was on a track and field scholarship, and that was a great experience for me because I left the UK and I met new people across the world and saw new cultures, and just kind of felt like we as a Black community need to connect globally. We need to meet each other. There's so many of us doing great things and we never see it and we never know, and it's like that needs to come down because a lot of us are in our spaces feeling upset or disheartened or feeling like there's more that needs to happen in our community, but there's a lot of people that feel that way. So if we just come together, then maybe we can solve our own problems. So my journey has literally just been someone who kind of had that background and then worked in like finance, or I did like a lot of investment banking internships, and then I worked in fintech for 2 years. And during that time, that's when I started building BYP. And again, BYP was just like, I just started by doing events, building a mailing list, launching kind of our first version platform, and then literally iterating and growing from there and building our brand to kind of get to the stage that we are now.
I think people don't realize how important it is, even as young people are growing up, that they have hobbies, they have something that they can excel at apart from the academic world. And the fact that you were an athlete and you pursued excellence in that helped to open up more doors for you. And people need to realize that that's important, whether it's sport, whether it's music, whether it's, art, talents and hobbies are really important. People can strive for excellence in those areas.
Yeah, exactly.
It helps to make the rounded person that you are, and helps you to realize there's a bigger world outside of what we're doing or where we're at. So well done with that. Well done.
A lot of skills that I use now in business was from my sporting background.
Oh, that's great. Well done. That's good. So you're making a huge impact now. What do you think is your driving force, which is taking you to the top? I mean, I'd like to say you're practically near the top now, but I know that you have high ambitions. I can guess that from speaking with you. What do you think will be your driving force to get you to be even more impactful?
That is the driving force, the fact that the ambition is large, right? I don't think we're at the top in any means anywhere. That's not the view that we have here.
That's what you said at the beginning. You said, this is just the start.
Yeah, exactly. This is just the beginning. It's just the start. So it's always day one or day zero, and there's a lot of work to always be done. I mean, how we can't stop or think we've done a lot of work if we haven't changed the Black narrative, right? If another pandemic hits and we're back in the same position where all the negative news is on us, right? And we're telling us we're dying the most, and they're telling us that we were less hospital admissions, but we died the most. Like there's a whole NHS crisis or, racism in medicine that's going on as well. It's like the Black narrative is all encompassing, like even though we're just working on the everyday individual to get them better or get them more educated or informed or connected so that they can do the best they can in helping the Black community, right? So the Black narrative is everything. Like we have to change, the way, we're put on the media and stuff, but even just our daily realities, the situation that happened with that influencer Nicole Thea passing away from childbirth, and then the whole stats of knowing we die 5 times more than everybody else. That's still part of the narrative. Like, why are we dying more than everybody else? How do we as a community fix that? How do we, make sure that there's things going on in medicine that doesn't affect us like that, So it's a weird one because that's got nothing to do necessarily with BYP, but it's like to change the narrative is to really change kind of the stats against us,
Well, something that I heard recently, which you might have heard as well, that a young Black medic has created a handbook
Yeah.
So that doctors can recognize illnesses on black or dark skin.
Yeah.
Like, really? 2020, this has not been done before? And you tell me when doctors are being trained that they're only teaching about what happens on white skin?
No, but that is the case. But the thing is that I think the key thing is we're saying really only now, but we had to be the ones to do it. That's the point. Like, it's a really hard one where we have every right to be annoyed. Like, why are they only teaching it on white skin? But they are the majority, and in their eyes, they focus on themselves, or they focus on their research that appeals to them. Whereas we as a community, we have to be the ones that gives those solutions. Like, BYP Network couldn't have been created by a white man, right? It could only be a black person who's lived these experiences and wants it changed. Yeah. So this young boy making that handbook is because he's like, what the hell is going on here? Why has no one else done that? And it's true. Why has no other black doctor done that? It had to be a black doctor to do that, you look at sickle cell, you look at, leukemia, you look at prostate cancer, things that really affect the black community. It has to be us that looks deeper and does that research, because it doesn't affect them. So they're not thinking about it. They're not, a lot of people do things that affects them directly until others show them or like their eyes are open to it. And again, I'm not saying that's okay, because it's not, because it's affecting our community. But that's why it really is up to us now to come together and come up with these solutions for our community.
I like it because you're quite solutions oriented. That's the way it's coming across. You know, we're seeing the problems, but hold on, let's not just moan about it forever, which is what people have done. You're coming up with solutions. I'm thinking that others should find solutions as well. It's fantastic.
Exactly. Everyone should find solutions. Like, it's affecting us as a community. Like, we can't complain for 20 more years that these people never did this or this people never did that, because they're not going to do it. And that's not okay. But then it is to us to hold them to account. Like, why have you not done it? Like we actually have to, like, if you're a lawyer, for example, and you're getting paid well, stuff, what pro bono work can you do for the black community where you've seen a gap? Like, hold on, the black community when it comes to law and crime or whatever, they're not being represented well. Maybe there needs to be a handbook or a guide for young black boys in case they get stopped by the police. You know what I mean? So for me, I am very solutions focused, because I'm like, there's only solutions that will make the change. And time is, we can't keep waiting on time for things to change. We have to manipulate time. We have to be the ones to make that move. And again, it can't just be one person. We need all of us to do our part, like very focused on an area, and then we'll make that change.
You're giving me great hope and inspiration for the next generation of our people. It's wonderful. So you've raised a huge amount of funds recently. Well done. How did you do this?
So we raised, I think 570K right now, but we're actually raising £1 million in total. So how it works is we did crowdfunding. We have a huge community, right? So we did a pre-registration to see if anyone's interested. We had about 1,500 people sign up to say that they would like to invest. And then we did like a private launch. And in that private launch, I think we got up to 450K. And then after, when we did it public, we got the full 50, and then it went full 500, and then it went to 560 or 570. So for me, the reason we did a crowdfund was because, again, our community don't know much about the investment world. And I'm talking about startup investments, right? Like, there are people who invested in Uber and Airbnb and all these companies and Facebook before they were Facebook, these companies. But we weren't those people. So people are getting super, super rich, like super rich, from just backing small businesses before they become big. And they get paid out in like 5 to 8 years, like 100x, 1,000x their returns. Obviously, investment is risky. Capital is always at risk, and no one can ever promise anything. I think 95% of startups die, right? So it is a risky game. However, black businesses aren't being funded because, again, as I mentioned, they don't see it. They don't get it. They don't get the problem. It's not their lived experiences. But the problem with that is that they are the majority, right? So if we can't get money from them and our community don't have money either, we can't grow these black businesses that we speak of. So when black people are complaining about black businesses, not having enough quality, being too expensive, not having good customer service, it's like, have you ever considered that under-resourced, understaffed, don't have enough money, and then their friends and family want discounts? So there's a lot. so there's a lot to it where it's like, you think, okay, why does that brand look like that and our black brand looks like this? It's an investment situation. That's what it is. They have money to spend on it. And a lot of these companies, some of them are not revenue generating. I mean, Amazon wasn't revenue generating or profit making for like 17 years. So how did Amazon become Amazon if they never made profit? It's because they had, millions, maybe even billions of pounds of investment. And investment means that you can do all the things that you need to do and then get that revenue later. You can grow to be that dominant player and then kill it. And now look at them. So we don't have that in our community, and we're getting left behind more and more and more, whether it is in that world or in technology, because tech is the future and black representation in tech is not strong either. So these things really scare me and really fuel me to be like, again, we need to get educated as a community, like really, really, really look beyond our current situation or whatever's going on and get focused into the future. What's going to happen in 10, 20 years time? If they're saying that tech is the future and all service jobs are going to go, and we know we're mainly the ones working in retail, security, cleaning, but they're saying these jobs might not even be needed in the future, where does that leave us? So for us, it's like anything we can do to help the community is what we're doing. And our crowdfund, even though obviously it's investment for us, investment is also a benefit for you. You're investing in a company that aims to grow, to be, to give you a return, and they're solving a lot of problems in the black community. Like that's a win-win. And that's essentially what it is. And we were in the news last week or the week before talking about the fact that black founders aren't funded. I think the stat was 13 billion euros spent last year in terms of funding, and only 0.2% went to like black female founders, or maybe it was 0.02. It was very low. So it's just, about, you don't know what you don't know. And I never knew about this world until 2 years into my entrepreneurship journey.
Okay. Brilliant. One of the articles we put on our Black Economics website recently talked about a statistics that came out in 2018 about black-owned business in America. It said there were 2 million of them. So, of course, a few of us got happy and said, 2 million black-owned businesses, isn't that wonderful? But then when we dug down into the stats, we realized that 95% of them do not employ anybody. So that means they're either self-employed or they're a side hustle. So only 5% of those businesses are viable enough to employ other people. Now, there's a huge market there because, as you rightly said, there's a lot of talent and creativity now in our community, but they're not getting the funding to, in order to expand. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, that is a problem, right? I mean, we don't have the stat here in the UK, but we know pretty much everyone has a side hustle, right? How many people do you know have a business or a side hustle that even they can't be full-time in, or or they are, but they're not paying themselves much and they can't, or they're a freelancer, creative. Like, so many of us in our community are trying to do our own thing, but don't have the investment, don't have the networks, don't have the business acumen as well to grow it and scale a company, because they don't have the support, the mentorship and the coaching. So we are so behind that we don't even realize it. We compare ourselves to other people's day 400, right? Like, we're comparing ourselves to these brands and businesses that have generational wealth and that have backing and support and that have a majority of people who have that wealth that look like them and that invest in them. So that does not surprise me, because it's like, you start your business, what next? What do? You don't know. You don't know, because who do you lean on? Who do you ask? You don't know another black person that has built a £1 billion company or, a multi-million pound company. So the thing is, I think it's good for us to look at these stats, but then it goes back to our whole, how do we solve these problems?
Yes.
All those 2 million businesses, what are there? I'm sure there's multiple businesses that can collaborate, right? Like, I'm sure there's multiple businesses that actually, if you all come together, you have some sort of network, you can be selling and buying towards each other. Maybe that black business sells, hand dryers, and you own a bar. Then can they sell? Can they sell it to you? But we don't have that network of that community element of buy in black, buy within ourselves, help each other grow. If there's only one person that bakes bread on the street, right? And someone else is the plumber and somebody else is this. You always go to that one person for that service. But what tends to happen with us is there'll be 5 people baking bread on the same street. No, but it's something to think about. And I think, we've got a lot of work to do. And again, I don't blame us. I wrote an article the other day just calling it's systemic, right? This is systems that's been in place before us. And in America, they say this thing where it's like the folks with the 400-year head start. Like, they were in slavery. Black people were in slavery. There was a 400-year head start. Yet we're comparing our day right now to how they are right now. It's not really comparable.
You're not comparing like with like, yeah.
We're not. And we forget that a lot. We're not comparing like with like. So that's what I mean. I think we need to be kinder to ourselves, and we need to be kinder to each other. And then we need to be focused on solutions.
It's funny because remember you were saying about 5 people doing the same thing. I remember hearing about this, about a street in Norwood, I think it's Portland Street, where they used to have 5 Caribbean takeaways on the same street, 5 of them. And you're right. If they were to come together and form some kind of conglomerate,
exactly,
they could be feeding the whole of London by now. But everybody wants to do their own little thing,
Right. They could have had one name. They could have been franchised in that. They could have shared the profits. They could have made sure the prices were the same. This is what I'm saying. But again, there's loads of different, that's what I mean, there's so many dynamics to our community that all need solving, and it's going to take time. And again, we just need to be kinder to ourselves, even though we can look at that and be annoyed. But the thing is, the trust in the community isn't there. Maybe one person did reach out to the other and say, hey, why don't we come together? And the other person said, why would I do that? So the trust isn't there. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. Again, I won't say it's a time thing. It's a proactivity thing and a real effort and desire from the individuals that will cause the change.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So, who do you view as your role models? People that, have gone before us, have done amazing things. Who do you feel that, you'd love to model yourself after that person? Whether they're Black, white, Asian, whoever they are.
I mean, if we're talking about the business world, for me, on this journey, or like even before we're where we are, I was reading books like Elon Musk's book and Steve Jobs' book, I was watching those Shark Tank episodes on TV. I enjoyed reading about Whitney Wolf at Bumble. These were the people that I was looking at when I started BYP Network. So that's why the ambition has always been great, because I'm like, how did they do it? Well, why can't I? And okay, we're different, but so what? And I think that's why we've been doing so well, but we're very much aware, like, this isn't the standard. If I'm talking about Elon Musk, if that's the standard, then I don't know. There's a long way to go.
Amazing, and you're blazing a trail.
Yeah.
You're blazing, and you will be a role model for many other people who are coming along who realizing that, okay, well, you had no ceiling on your ambition, so maybe I should be like Kike.
I think that's something that has happened, and I think that's not something I ever predicted, right? In my own journey of trying to find the role models and to, grow a big business and to just do what I can, I didn't realize that, others will be watching along the journey. So that's been super cool. But as long as people do know that they can do it, like, I don't want people to look and think, oh, but she was this and she was that, it's different. It's like, well, why not you? Why can't you do it? Just open your mindset and have that huge ambition, and you can achieve it.
Yeah.
I mean, we hear it all the time. I was talking to my friend yesterday about it. Like, every recipe for success is the same thing. They say, have big ambition, be focused and intentional, and, work towards that goal.
Okay. All right. So along the journey, we do tend to have a lot of disappointments and barriers that come up that we think, oh gosh, how am I going to get through this? Would you like to share one or two of those times, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, I mean, so I don't know when this is coming out, but we just had an event yesterday with Goldman Sachs about leadership in a time of crisis. And we were listening to the leaders, and it was just so inspiring, like, just to hear them just be their authentic selves. And one of them just kept, a guy called Carl Williams, kept on highlighting that you have to fail. All you do is fail. You fail to succeed. And a lot of us are afraid of failing. And you obviously have to be brave on this journey. And I think for me, my biggest epic fail that, I always hold on to was my time in Florida. Like, I went out there to be the best ever javelin thrower in the world, an Olympic champion and world record holder. Like, these are the level of ambition I went in there. But for some reason, I had so much anxiety. I was in this other world. You know, I was on this full scholarship. I realized just how rare that scholarship was, especially as a master's student. Suddenly the pressure just came on me like, oh my God, like, you know, I have to perform. So much that I couldn't perform because I just felt so, like, just, I don't know the word, like, just like tight. I felt really tight all the time. Like, I was always on edge. And that's never happened to me before. Like, I've always been someone who's just like, you know, focused, driven, I could do anything, confident. So it was like I was a whole different person in that environment. And I remember just thinking like, wow, like, what the hell? And it's something I couldn't break. So I see that as failure, even though, you know, people don't, because obviously I got my master's, you know, I was like top 20 in NCAA, and I think top 5 all time in the University of Florida. But actually when they recruited me, it was to be the best. So I don't know if that makes sense. So the standard, it was one of those standards that we knew. I knew the standard and they knew the standard, but everybody else may not have known the standard. So even though everybody else is kind of like, wow, amazing. So even like, let's say, God forbid right now, if BYP, this is it, this is the level you hit. A lot of people like, that was amazing. You guys did amazing. Like, what, like, you know, what more? But I know the real standard. The real standard is we're trying to be a £1 billion company. Absolutely. So if we don't get there, then we know we didn't hit our goal. We know. But so many other people would be like, but you guys were a multi-million pound platform. That's amazing. And it is, but it's not the standard.
And the interesting thing is, because of what happened in America, yes, you probably were disappointed, but it left you room to start BYP.
Exactly. That's the thing. I think one thing about me, I very much trust the journey. I feel like I'm just walking a path that's already laid out for me. I feel like everything is already set and I just have to go forward, because the way things just all align, or you look back and you're like, that's interesting. How could that have happened to lead to that, you know? And Florida definitely was one of them. I thought I went out there to be the best javelin thrower in the world. But obviously I went out there to get inspiration to start BYP. But BYP was never even a thought process of mine, you know, until after Florida. It never was a thing for me. So yeah, I think happens for a reason.
Maybe it was a kind of training for later on, perhaps.
Yeah.
Have you got videos of you doing your javelin throwing?
Somewhere. Somewhere.
To see. It's a good way to reflect on where you've come from, and that, yes, you could have been the world #1 javelin player, but people need BYP probably far more.
Yeah, this is a lot more impactful. Yeah.
So well done with that. So how did you find building your team for BYP Network?
So building teams are always difficult, you know, especially as a startup founder, because as a founder, you're like, when I started BYP, it was all on my own, right? Just building on my laptop, go to work, come back on my laptop, working. And you're working at such a pace, and you know the vision and the ambition, and you know the level of quality things need. But finding the right people to fit in or to have their own ideas and be able to execute is always so difficult, because it's like you need another entrepreneur who's happy to be within the company, but grow the company, and also have that ability to be like kind of a jack of all trades to begin with. So the journey's been super interesting where, you know, like I said, it was mainly me. Then I had some volunteers here and there. Volunteers is not the one for people who are like building. You need to pay people even if you can only pay £100 a month and it's a few hours, it's much better, because there's no real incentive, even if they want to help because they really like love it. Like, it's not priority. So you need to make sure it's the person's priority. So something we did early on is like, we had like loads of, when we had not much money, right? Loads of freelancers just doing like, imagine it's £10 per hour. So 20 hours of work a month, right? Like, that's what we could afford. And then, but it helps, right? So whether it's social media, as soon as social media could get taken off my hands, that freed me up to really focus on BYP, or our communication. So we've got a newsletter. Having someone who does that, you know, even if I'm the one who's writing, or, you know, my bit, or telling them what to write, frees up so much time. So we've been able to do it in that way, where we had like specific people for specific needs, like freelancing. And then when we fundraised early last year, our first pre-seed, which was about 150K, we were able to hire like a more full-time team. So I got a head of partnerships in, and she's now our co-founder. And she was amazing. She came in, you know, was able to really generate revenue for the company, really focus on that, and bring her level of expertise. And then that's when you realize, like, wow, it's amazing to get people who come in and get it, and they do their area, and they help grow your business. And again, I think that's something I would say to people building their business. Hiring is so important. We've got it wrong many times. Like, there's times I've hired people who, because I needed someone, I got them in, but they weren't good, and they made my work twice as hard. Gave me double the workload, because now I'm having to undo all the wrong they've done and still do it, you know? So that's happened a few times. Or we've had people who, because BYP is doing so well, you know, they're part of the journey and the success, but then it gets to their head, and then they you know, so it becomes kind of entitled or kind of like pompous, or and it's like, we haven't even started. If this is how you're acting, what's the journey here? So it's been such an interesting journey. I always say I'll write a book one day on it, because but every founder, because I'm part of a lot of founders community, struggles with this. They struggle with team building, hiring the right people. And when you're young, you're so vulnerable, because you can die anytime. It takes that one person to send the wrong email out to everyone, or to, you know, crash something, and it completely changes your business, you know? Whereas big companies, they can get away with, they always try to hire the best as well. But if someone is mediocre, they can kind of be absorbed in the bigger structure. You know, but in a business, every output you do, we feel it.
Yeah, I hear you. Funny, one of my later questions is going to be, have you written, or are you planning to write a book?
Why is that a question?
Because obviously you have an interesting story, and it's a unique one, and people need to know the growing pains as well as the joys.
What would you like to see if I wrote a book?
Well, I think as you progress in your journey, and as you build it towards being the £1 billion company that I believe it will be, I think you need to write a manual as to how others can do it. So a bit like when you're going up the ladder, you're pulling other people up with you. A lot of people, they get up to the end of the ladder, and then they push the ladder down, so nobody else can follow.
Yeah.
I mean, I do remember hearing one or two business people say to me, "No, I'm not teaching nobody how to do this. It took me 10 years to learn how to do it, you know, sweat and tears. I'm not teaching nobody how to do it."
I hate that mindset so much. I hate that mindset so much. I see it all the time, like all the time. Like, this is also part of the problem of our community. We think that, oh, because I slaved, I worked hard, they have to do it too. They have to slave too. Other communities are literally slaving so that they can make sure the next generation are good. Like, they shouldn't have to slave the way we slave. They shouldn't have to go through the traumas we went through just because we went through it. And that's just the most, I hate it so much. We're all about sending the elevator back down. And maybe I'll write a book one day.
Okay, great. All right, what about your hobbies? What do you do in your downtime? Do you have any downtime nowadays? I hope you do. And then what do you do in it?
Yeah, you know what? During the pandemic, not so much of a downtime, you know. Like, I don't know if others felt the same way. It's like you're in your working environment, your home as well. Like, so your laptop's always on. Like, it's when we're in the office, it's like, yeah, shut my laptop, done, going home, you know. But working from home, it's like your laptop's always on. So I haven't actually really had much of downtime during this COVID period. The downtime has been going to the park, for example, you know, like meeting my friends or spending time with my boyfriend here and there. Like, that's the downtime, but not real kind of, like, last year, for example, I traveled like 6-7 countries, you know, people for like 3-4 days. Or I do like spa weekenders. Like, that's what I enjoy, just being away sometimes for a bit. And that's my happy place. Like, if I travel, most times I might just be in my hotel room because I just want to sleep. So yeah, COVID, I haven't been able to do much downtime, but once COVID is really done, maybe from 2021, I'll go back to my happy times.
I think with the way that current affairs and politics are at the moment with Black Lives Matter, I can imagine that website like yours and others, we've certainly been busier because, you know, you're having to respond to what's out there, you know. So that brings me to the Black Lives Matter question. What's your views and how do you feel? I know we're hoping the world will change because of it, but do you think it really will?
I think it's on us now. Like, I think it's on us to keep going. And what I mean by that is a lot of people during this climate kind of felt like, oh, now they're waking up to it. Like, we've been telling them, I can't be bothered now. And I'm like, look, now's not the time to say that. Now is not the time to be like, I can't be bothered now. Now that someone's willing to listen, we can't say, oh, I can't be bothered. We've been trying to tell you for 100 years. You haven't listened. Now you're listening. I'm not going to tell you. We really have to get out of that. At the end of the day, right now is the time to capitalize as a community. Everybody's open eyes, right? They're seeing it. They're like, oh my God, wow, I just, some reason never saw it, even though everybody's been telling me, but now I see it today. It's time for us to make sure that in our workplaces, you know, better policies are happening. They're hiring more Black people. You know, they understand what it means to be Black in the workplace. All these companies that are committing money, where's the money going? You know, pushing through more initiatives. It's time for us to really push through our initiatives and be very vocal about it. Like, for example, you know, we've seen Nike commit 100 million, I think. Sky committed 30 million, BBC committed 100 million, and June Sarpong, I believe, has just created a creative festival on BBC for Black talent. Like, capitalize. This is the time to do it. Maybe a year ago, they probably would never have approved that. And I know, again, I get it. It's long because we've been telling them it's not for us to educate them. They need to educate themselves, right? But also we have to educate ourselves on bigger things. And when I say bigger things, it's like getting on boards. How many people are on boards? Charity boards in general. It doesn't matter your age, doesn't matter anything. You can get on a board, and that's a leadership position. You can make an impact in that company, but we're not on those boards. You know, how many of us, like you said, are mentoring or giving back or sending the elevator back down? You know, it's double things. Like, we're excited because the world is finally listening, but we're like, you know, is it really going to we're already kind of pessimistic. There's no point, it's pointless. Why at this moment are we being pessimistic? Why this moment? We can be pessimistic if in a year's time nothing happened. Okay. But this moment is not the time to be pessimistic. This moment is the time to capitalize. And I think that people need to really understand that. So when they're feeling, I can't be bothered, it's like, this is because when you now can be bothered in a year's time and no one else can, what's going to happen then?
Very wise words.
Fashion and furnishings.
VU Designs. Fashion and furnishings.
Fashion and furnishings.
VU Designs. Fashion and furnishings.